Coach Drew.
For ways to heal and grow in your relationships, subscribe to my channel and receive a notification every Thursday when I post a new video. Hey everybody, Coach Drew here, registered psychotherapist. Welcome to my channel. Thanks for watching. As you know, if you watched any of these videos, this channel is all about restoring relationships. It's all about reconciliation and how to get there. The journey to reconciliation. That sounds like it might be the title of my next book. But the art of a genuine apology is that segment of life and relationship between forgiveness and reconciliation. A few years back, before I wrote the book, I had a conversation on 100 Huntley Street with Pastor Mike Sherbino. Let me know what you think.
Dr. Andrew Blackwood, welcome again.
Thanks, Mike.
We're so glad you're here. Last week was an amazing conversation. I enjoyed it so much. Today, we're going to dive into a heavy subject, and you're a family coach and counselor, but many of us, all of us, myself included, we need to be coached in the whole area of forgiveness and reconciliation. And Andrew, when I heard I was doing the conversation with you, I was traveling with my wife. We were actually talking about what is the difference between forgiveness and reconciliation.
Well, you know, there are several differences, but one of the big differences between forgiveness and reconciliation is forgiveness requires one. You only need one person to forgive. You don't need to agree on the issue, you don't need to agree on the perspectives. It's just an opportunity for you to do it. And when we think that reconciliation is attached to that, sometimes that can be the barrier to forgiving.
So it's hard to move from point A to point B because we think we got to do it all in one big
Exactly.
jump.
Some people think they're the same, so they think they're obligated to not only forgive, but to be reconciled. It's a difficult choice to make for some, for many reasons. However, the process of reconciliation actually looks pretty similar for most people. And that requires two people.
Okay.
How can we walk unless we agree, right?
So let's back up for a second. Back to the forgiveness part. Talk to us about forgiveness and forgetting. Do I have to forget? Because then I'll never get to the reconciliation. Just a couple quick thoughts on that.
You know, I don't think you have to forget. I think sometimes it's impossible to forget. However, we can still remember and still move forward. You can remember and forgive, right? We want to think about the impact that we've endured, and that will help us to be able to say, okay, this is actually what I am forgiving. And I think we need to remember in order to reconcile.
Explain that one. Okay, I got to remember in order to reconcile.
Yeah, because in order to be reconciled, we need to agree about where we're going. Some people think that because we're reunited, we've reconciled, but there's a big difference.
Don't you think that when we want to reconcile with people within ourselves, what we're really hoping initially is that they're going to own what we think they did to us?
Most people do, and most people assume once we do that forgiveness part, then everybody's on the same page, but there's no guarantee that the person is aware of what your expectations are, what your hopes are, and have they committed to that. And if you haven't gone through that process, what's the likelihood that the same thing might occur? It's pretty high.
So should I lay out my expectations when I sit down with someone and talk about reconciliation?
Definitely.
Can I do that on my own, or do I need a mediator?
Well, it depends on the scenario, right?
Yeah. So when Jesus calls us to forgive, that's the starting point, right?
I think that's a first step, because that will give us indications about our readiness as well as the other person's for a reconciliation.
When you see reconciliation happen, describe a perfect scenario.
Perfect scenario. I was working with a father and daughter, and it was a wonderful process for me, and this comes back to the book that I'm working on. It helped to bridge forgiveness to reconciliation with an apology, because we worked through it to recognize what the offense or offenses were. We talked about listening last week, but that was involved in it as well. They heard either side of the story, but they actually heard, they actually listened, and we incorporated that into the apology. And then we were able to say, okay, well, from this point forward, this is how we're going to move forward. And it was a beautiful experience for all three of us.
So they heard each other well enough to be able to articulate what the other person needed to hear.
Yeah.
To close the wound.
Right.
So, Mike and I talked about forgiveness versus reconciliation, how they're similar, but also how they're different. I say a lot more about it in the book. It's on Amazon, check it out. But in the meantime, do you expect people to see things your way and to apologize? before you can be reconciled? Leave me a comment below. Until next time, be sure to like, share, comment, and turn on your notifications so you know exactly when I post a new video next Thursday. Until then, continue to learn, heal, and grow.